Is it possible that my MVP of last year's basketball team is even better this year?
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day of the orange and blue. Everything here is absolutely free. The only thing I ask for in return is if you can hit that like button, let me know and let YouTube know and let the Locked On Network know that you guys are watching and that you guys are enjoying this Illini content during the offseason, kind of the offseason. Obviously, football is right around the corner at this point, so it's not really offseason, but you know what I mean. Today, we're not going to talk football. Today, we're going to discuss a little basketball, and more importantly, we're going to be discussing Tomislav Ivisic, who, as most of my everydayers in here know, I was a big fan of Tommy pretty much as soon as I watched him play. When I saw the film on him coming into the season, I was like, hey, if this guy can give us 8-5, I'd be good with it. What I didn't expect was Tomislav to become the MVP of the team, which is what I said about a month and a half into the season, that I felt like he was the most important player on that roster. I'm not saying he was the best player. You know, I think Kasparis and Will Riley by the end of the year were clearly superior players, but I don't think there was another player on the roster that was more important to the team than Tomislav. And quite honestly, I think he's going to have a big part of how good this team is going to be next year. Obviously Tomislav, like Kylan, like Ben Hummerkaus, met with some of the Illini media last week, and he had some interesting things to say that, just kind of caught my eye. And something I just wanted to bring up, like, can Tomislav become an all Big Ten player next year? Maybe an All-American type of players? I think so. So let's talk about it. First and foremost, he talked about his body transformation. Last summer, visa delays and NCAA clearance issues meant Ivisic didn't arrive in Champaign until late July, meaning he missed the entire preseason. Yet he still put up 13 points and 7.7 rebounds per game and knocking down threes at almost 40%. The offseason was different This offseason was different. His focus was clear. The focus was only on lifting, getting more muscle mass, and just eating right, because I didn't have a lot of opportunity last summer. So this is basically the first summer where I had time to work with Fletch, and I think we did a great job. We still got a lot of work to do, but I can be happy with the results. The results, meaning he gained 15 pounds of muscle, crediting strength coach Adam Fletcher, as I mentioned, not only for the workouts, but just his nutrition and his recovery support, even eating meals together during Ivisic's recovery from mono. Move better, run faster, and more conditioned. He jumps higher. Literally, he says he's in the best shape of my life. Now, that means he's stronger, more explosive, and has improved stamina, which was a big deal for him last year. That means more physical paint presence, better efficiency in screening, and more consistent pick and pop shooting. Tommy says, I don't even look at last year's injuries. That's behind me. I just hope this year I can be way more successful injury-wise. So what's going on this year? Ivisic obviously going to come back as a starter, but he's going to be coming back as much more than that. I talked about on Tuesday's episode how Kylan Boswell has kind of taken on the mantle of being one of the leaders of this program, of this basketball team. And I think Tomislav Ivisic is another one who's done the same. He arrived early with his twin brother, Zvonimir, who's now his transfer teammate, and a guy Tommy has played and competed with more than anybody else in his entire life. We've gone through this journey together, he said. Our on-court rapport adds a rare dimension to the rotation. Beyond on-court chemistry, he understands the importance of veteran presence, especially in the tough Big Ten. Experience is a huge deal here, he says. We can help new guys, new freshmen, help the program win games. it really looks like he's taken on this mentorship role seriously, giving direct advice with blunt honesty. Learn from my mistakes. Just come here ready and don't come fat. Listen to Fletch. Whatever he says, just do whatever he says, and everything else will fall into place. For a morning workout grinder to deliver that sort of message with that kind of a humility, again, I keep saying the same word, but leadership. Ivisic's first year, his campaign didn't come all that easy. Of course, we all know he had the high ankle sprain, he had mono, and zero time to really acclimate himself physically. Instead of letting adversity define him, though, he used it. He said, glad that I'm ready for this year. Do injury prevention with Fletch every single day. Just hope that it won't happen this year. He modeled discipline, recovery, rigor, and focus, and now asks younger teammates to follow that same template. If somebody asks for my help, I'll always be there. I know how things go here, and it's good to be in this spot. Tommy's voice is one grounded in lessons learned. He's a veteran now, teaching through his own history and adversity. The culture in Champaign this summer, I've mentioned this before, feels a little different, and Ivisic describes it himself. The guys who are here, we work really hard. When the new guys come, it will only get better. Keep in mind, that interview was done before Mihajlo Petrovic was announced by the club, and David Mirkovic showed up in Champaign. It was actually through Tomislav Ivisic's Instagram that everyone got excited. He's the one who posted the picture of David. Tommy says he sees a team forging itself through hard-earned consistency and not just hype. That's a message echoed by Boswell, Hummerkaus, and other returning players. He also embraced the new coach. He mentioned Cameron Crocker is great. Energy, understanding, funny. That's going to be a huge piece this year. For Ivisic, molding culture is about modeling habits every day. Punctuality, sacrifice, embracing the unknown, and working until no one else can. The expectations are high. Analysts expect Illinois to compete for a Big Ten title and make a deep NCAA tournament run. And if that's to happen, it means that Tomislav Ivisic has to be one of those pillars. If he stays healthy, if he stays consistent, I think he can absolutely deliver on both ends. Again, I've mentioned, I think he's the best returning big man in the entire conference. I think he's the engine of a balanced, hard-nosed rotation. And as I mentioned, I think he's going to be one of the leaders of the locker room. Insiders believe he and the Illini have the chance to exceed expectations if he delivers on his own promise, which is simply just work hard every day. Don't leave anything behind. Focus on right now and give your best. That commitment hopefully can set a standard. And this year, Illinois is going to need it more than ever. Looking at the season through the lens of Tommy, it's why I believe he's not just going to repeat last year's success, but exceed it. From MVP status to veteran leadership, from missing preseason to embracing training camp like never before, from recovering from injury to now being in the best shape of his life. This isn't just Tomislav Ivisic year 2. This is Tomislav Ivisic elevated. This is a guy who, this might be his last year in Champaign. And it's not something to take for granted. He talked about how there was a chance he was going to join the draft last year, but ultimately decided to give it one more go. That he talked with his people, and they all realized that one more year of college basketball would benefit him more than going pro right away. And so Tomislav, I'll say right now, if Illinois is to finish in the top 3 in the Big Ten Conference, maybe top 2, I think it's going to be on the back of Tomislav. I fully expect him to once again repeat as the most important player on this team. And again, I'm being very clear about that. Not necessarily the best player, right? I use this comparison constantly. My everydayers will have heard me say this last season. Tomislav reminded me of what Joakim Noah was to the Chicago Bulls a few years back. He was the leader on the team and just a guy who kind of initiated the offense and was the very vocal guy on defense. Obviously, he doesn't come close to what Joakim did on the defensive end, but who knows? Now that Tomislav is in much better shape, it sounds like, maybe this is the year that he can even improve on that side of the basketball court. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. As a user of Monarch Money, it really surprised me just how much me and the missus were spending on takeout every single week. In order to fix our budget, we decided we need to make some tough decisions, something we wouldn't have realized if it wasn't shown to us by Monarch. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. And welcome back. As kickoff approaches, again, we're just a couple weeks away, August 29th, Illinois versus Western Illinois. One of the biggest mysteries on offense for Illinois football continues to be the wide receiver room. Last year's top two pass catchers, Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, well, they're gone. That's nearly 1,700 yards and double-digit touchdowns of production walking out the door, which means someone's got to step up. More than likely, several have to. So today we're going to dive deep into the 2025 wide receiver corps. Who's back? Who's new? Who's rising? And what we can really expect from this prove-it group under Brett Bielema. So let's get into it. Illinois has to replace 63.7% of last year's wide receiver snaps. And they're doing it with a mix of one proven returner, a high upside transfer from Western Virginia, some unproven but intriguing freshmen, and a lot of internal questions. Let's start with the projected rotation, depth chart, and here's how I think it's going to likely shake out. At the X receiver, at least on the boundary side, I think you have Hudson Clement, Malik Elzy, Braden Trimble. The Z receiver, Hank Beatty, Ashton Hollins, Tyshawn Griffin. Slot, Colin Dixon, Justin Bowick, and Mario Sanders II. Again, right now, those are just names that I'm hearing. It could be a wide open room in the truest sense. So let's learn about these players a little bit. Let's start with Hank Beatty, the senior, Mr. Reliable. Beatty is the only wide receiver on the roster with legitimate Big Ten starting experience. In 2024, he caught 20 passes for 294 yards and a touchdown, averaging 14.7 yards per catch. Not flashy stats, but it's clutch. Think third downs, scramble drills, broken plays. Beatty's the guy who shows up in those type of situations. He'll also maybe continue punt return duties, which could impact how many snaps he ultimately gets on offense. He's been described as Paul Hornung awards list type, meaning a true all-purpose weapon. Not necessarily your WR1, but absolutely a wide receiver you want on the field when the game is on the line. Another name that Illini fans are very well familiar with is Malik Elzy, a junior with a lot of boom or bust potential. It's a player that fans have been waiting to see break out. The former four-star recruit from Chicago has all the tools. 6'2", 215, strong after the catch, can go up and win 50-50 balls. But so far in his Illini career, 4 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. The flashes are there, and he looks the part. All we need to see is if he can put it together. If he does, he could push Clement for that wide receiver 1 spot. The big question with Malik continues to be, can he stay healthy? Can he deliver consistently? Can he stay confident? Another guy who a lot of people are really talking about, and I was going to call him my guy in a future episode, which I'm going to be doing on offense. My guys are guys that I'm just kind of planting the flag on. Colin Dixon, a sophomore, a potential sleeper alert. Word has gotten out on him, so I'm probably going to pick somebody else at this point. But Colin was quietly productive in 2024. 18 catches for 264 yards. Again, how about 14.7 yards per catch? Same as Beatty. He's physical. He's quick off the line, and he could play either inside or outside, depending on the matchups. If Elzy doesn't rise, maybe Colin Dixon is the one who will. We also have Ashton Hollins, a 6'5" red zone threat. He's coming back from injury, but I think he remains intriguing. Just 2 catches for 40 yards last year, but with his height and reach, Hollins could be a key red zone mismatch for Luke Altmaier. Just imagine him lining up on the 10-yard line against a 5'9" defensive back. That could be his role. As for the transfer additions, we got Hudson Clement, a junior who could very well become wide receiver 1. I think he's arguably the biggest transfer win of the season. Coming over from West Virginia, Clement put up 51 receptions for 741 yards, 5 touchdowns in 2024. That's real FBS level production. He's smart, he's polished, and can win vertically or underneath. Not a burner, but separates with elite route running. He steps in immediately as Illinois' go-to outside wide receiver and could be the closest thing we have to replacing a guy like Pat Bryant. I would say confidently to look for Clement to rack up volume, especially early and often. Another sleeper that's been mentioned in the Talk Illini Discord, the link should be in the description. We're talking Illini sports all day, every day, is Justin Bowick, a guy with a big frame and quiet production. Bowick comes from Ball State, where he only played 4 games, but still racked up 383 yards, 3 touchdowns on just 20 catches. That's 19.2 yards per catch. Justin's 6'4", 200 pounds, and brings a grown man game over the middle. He's got potential to be one of the breakout players as well, or he could just rotate inside or out and give the room a little more veteran depth with his physicality. But we also have a couple of freshmen to watch. One in particular that has me intrigued, and that's Braden Trimble, a guy who's been dubbed as electrifying. Trimble is a Mount Zion native and a near 4-star prospect. Scouting Buzz says he's twitchy, elusive, and electric with the ball in his hands. He could very well crack the rotation by midseason if he can pick up that offense. And he's already pushing the older guys in camp, which I always take as a great sign. We also have Tyshawn Griffin, who's kind of more a speed demon. He redshirted last year, but all the reports coming out of practice say this kid can fly. He's only 5'10", 165, but he separates himself quickly and can turn a 5-yard slant into a 30-yard touchdown real fast. Think end arounds, screens, jet motions. Griffin could be a gadget guy early and a playmaker later on in his career. There's going to be challenges within this group. Beyond Beatty and Clement, there's no proven production. And there's a huge drop-off in snaps after those top few guys. So are the younger guys capable of adjusting to the speed and physicality of the Big Ten Conference? There are a couple X factors. I think first and foremost is, can Malik Elzy finally break out? If he does, this whole group entirely takes a leap. If Trimble or Griffin pop midseason, I think the offense adds explosion that may not necessarily have as of this minute. And if Hollins or Bowick stay healthy, I think Illinois all of a sudden has multiple red zone options, especially with those 2 guys' size. When it comes to the ceiling for the wide receiver room, I think Clement is wide receiver 1. Beatty continues his consistent role. Elzy steps up, Trimble flashes, and Illinois can create a balanced matchup-based wide receiver group. But the floor scenario is injuries plus inexperience plus maybe a lack of development. Force Bielema to lean a little bit more on the tight ends and the run game. And then all of a sudden the offense becomes a little bit more one-dimensional. The bottom line, this 2025 Illinois wide receiver room is one of the more fascinating position groups on the roster. There's so much talent, yet so much turnover and so many ifs. Who becomes the next Pat Bryant? Who becomes the next Isaiah Williams, the next Zachary Franklin, Casey Washington? We'll find out this fall, and probably not until week 2 or week 3 when the real reps start shaking out. Either way, you'll find coverage of the wide receivers room and every other room right here on Locked On Illini. Is there a particular guy in that wide receiver room that you like? Is there a name that jumps out at you? Again, I think in about 2 weeks, right before the season starts, I'm going to be picking my guys, there's a couple names on there that kind of jump out at me, but you guys, what have you been reading? What have you guys been hearing? Some of you have sources within the program. Maybe you're hearing something. I want to know in the comment section. Don't just tell me, tell your fellow Illini fans. And welcome back to the final segment. I figured every now and then us Illini fans, me included, maybe need a little bit of humbling. I consider myself an optimistic fan, but I don't think I'm over the top when it comes to either football or basketball. And so I wanted to address an Andy Katz preseason power ranking, which he released on Monday. I never got around to it, but I just want to go through it now, where he basically went 1 through 18 through all the teams. Okay, let me just fast forward real quick from the bottom up. Rutgers, Minnesota, Penn State, Iowa, Nebraska, Northwestern, Maryland, USC, Wisconsin. Those were the bottom. Washington. Those were the bottom 10. I don't want to spend too much time talking about those. Number 9, he had Indiana. Number 8, Ohio State. Number 7, Michigan State. Number 6, Wisconsin. Number 5, Illinois. Number 4, UCLA. Number 3, Oregon. Number 2, Michigan. And number 1, as probably guessed, Purdue. Purdue, number 1. I think that makes sense. I think if they're not number 1 on your preseason rankings, there's a slight bias going on, or you're just simply not paying attention. That's going to be one of the best teams in the country, and certainly one of the 2 favorites, I think, to win the national title, at least, as of today. We're talking about early August. Michigan, number 2, seems to be consensus amongst folks. I remain unconvinced. I've talked about that all offseason long. I get that they brought in a lot of talent. I just don't know if it's the right talent and the right guys to fit with each other. At number 3, you had Oregon, which got the most interactions, I guess you can say. I think actually the right word is probably reactions. I'll be honest, it was a little high for me. In my preseason rankings, I have them closer to the 6-7 area, but Andy apparently really does like Oregon. But UCLA at 4, you have Illinois at 5. It just comes as a shocking, right? Because again, to me, I think Illinois absolutely has a chance to finish second in this conference. And again, hopefully we're all in the trust tree here. This is all Illini fans in here. No Boilermakers find any of this, but I think they're going to be a good solid 2, 3, 4 games better than everyone else in this conference, especially when you have 2 of the 10 best players in all of college basketball on the same team. Oh, and by the way, one of the 5 best coaches in the country. I think Purdue is going to be a very tough team, both their first and second team. Unfortunately, they're just a very deep squad. I really do like Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's one of those teams where a year ago, I never really gave proper credit to Greg Gard. But after his performance last year, I'm no longer in that camp. And now I'm in the camp where I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the conference. And, having Blackwell there. And I've spent a lot of time with a lot of people that cover the Wisconsin Badgers over the last couple of weeks, both in Las Vegas and just talking offline. And apparently this Boyd kid is for real. And so I think they're going to be a team that's going to battle. But again, I just want to discuss this with you guys. With Illinois at number 5, is that too high, too low? I really like the pieces that we've come back, right? Especially as I talked about in the opening segment today with Tomislav, who I thought was already one of the better centers in the country last year. Give him another year of development. Give him another year where apparently he's been working out like crazy. He finally has a full off season with Fletch, which, if you're a follower of mine on all the social medias, that I say having Fletch on this team is a cheat code. And so having that combined with a more veteran Kylan Boswell, I understand that you're losing Kasparas Yakushonis and Will Riley, and nobody on this team can probably match the potential of those 2 guys. But if we're strictly just talking college basketball for one season, are you 100% sure that Mihailo Petrovic and Andrei Stojakovic can't produce for 1 year what those guys would have produced in college? next year? Maybe, maybe not. Andres, again, it's going to be a junior next year. Mihailo was one of the best players in his league, in the Adriatic League in Europe this past season. He averaged 14-7 in that league. He's going to be transferring over here to the Big Ten Conference. I think I've said this before, and I'll keep repeating myself. I think he's going to be our closer. I think by the time all is said and done, he's going to be in contention for all Big Ten. Granted, if Will Riley came back, I think he could have been in the running for a National Player of the Year. And, maybe even Kasparis, although I never really thought because there was any chance Kasparis would come back. But I guess what I'm trying to say is last year's team didn't have Ty Rodgers, and neither, unfortunately, it looks like this team is going to have him. But you're going to have a Kylan Boswell another year older. You're going to have Tomislav Ivisic another year older. Ben Humberkaus another year older. And now, I think, without the expectations, and maybe with that came the pressures that he had last season, I think I like this team. And so, finishing fifth, it's just one of those that's way too early. It's early August. I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention because I thought it was a good talking point, and I'm really hoping that some of you guys are going to make some comments in the comment section, whether it's on YouTube or, whether it's on your favorite audio platform, make sure you leave a 5-star if you are listening to this on your podcast player of choice. But, finishing fifth, we'll see. I keep repeating myself. I think there's only one team clearly better than Illinois. Let's just put it that way. I get Michigan is good, but I just think that people are severely underrating what this Illinois team is going to look like, especially if Cameron Crocker is half as good as some of the people are saying he's going to be. He's young, don't get me wrong, but if the players have bought into the system that he's going to bring, let's be honest, how much of a relief is it that Brad made this change and didn't go in with another year of Zach Hammer running the defense? For all his faults, and sure, Brad Underwood has many, as his detractors love to point out, he's not afraid of making changes. And, this is one significant change that he made. It's no secret that Illinois has had one of the most efficient offenses in the country the last couple of years. But on that same token, the defense has been just awful. And I feel like that defense is what's kind of cost them the opportunity to really compete for a national championship. And, Brad, again, I'll be honest, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I didn't know who Cameron Crocker was 1 minute before I read he was hired. So this is something I'm experiencing for the first time with you guys. But, the early vibes are positive, but of course they are. They always are with Brad Underwood. We know he has a tendency to embellish a couple things, but Illinois at number 5, there's a lot of time left. Obviously, we want David Mirkovich to start practicing with the team. We want Mihailo Petrovic on campus practicing with the team because I think, as I alluded to in an episode earlier this week, that's what's going to be the difference between finishing second or finishing 5th or 7th or 8th. This conference is going to be pretty deep this year. Again, I don't think you're going to have the superstar teams outside Purdue, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of good teams in the Big Ten Conference. Oregon, UCLA, again, as I mentioned, Wisconsin, I think is going to be a really good team. Tom Izzo, you never know what he's going to pull off with the Spartans. So in order for Illinois to maximize their opportunities to, finish second, or who knows, I'll just say for the sake of conversation first, they're going to need the reps. And hopefully that's why having a guy like Mihailo and David on campus right away is going to be huge. Again, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Is 5th too low? Is 5th about where you would have them? I did want to mention that Packers cornerback Nate Hobbs underwent knee surgery over the weekend to repair a meniscus tear, sources told Rob Domofsky, but he could be back for the regular season opener September 7th against the Lions. So here's hoping Nate gets back healthy. I wish him success, not so much the team that he plays for. And that's going to just about wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I can't say this enough. If you are not in our Discord, you need to join us. With each passing day, we're getting more and more action and activity in there. I think Illini fans are just genuinely getting excited about talking ball again, whether it's basketball or football. There's no other place you'd rather be. Again, if you're looking for a community of over 300 Illini fans, and it's probably higher than that at this point, spread all across the country, there's no better place than the Talk Illini Discord. The link should be in the description. I've got so much content for you this week. Also, a little hint, potentially a rapid reaction episode that's going to be dropped sometime this week. Just keep your eyes and ears open. If you want to make sure you don't want to miss anything, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And I don't know if they still do that notification bell, but just do that. That way you'll know you're not going to ever miss any of the content. That's it for today. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.